Welcome, everybody, to the Dynasty 365 podcast, where it really gets you in the mood with that salsa. It gets me every single time. I love it. That was a very good choice, Jorge. I'm a big fan. So
Nobody sees it coming. Nobody would even think about some salsa music and Dynasty fantasy football going together.
Right. Why would it? But you know what? Some things opposites attract, and it's just a great combination.
And it's a great conversation starter. So what can I say?
So we are the Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast for fantasyandframes.com. If you are a first-time listener, please give us a chance. If you are a repeat listener, please subscribe, rate, review. Those 5-star reviews are wonderful. So I am joined by my co-host and the fantasyandframes.com godfather, founder, all of the above, Jorge Edwards. Jorge, how you doing, man?
Dude, I am doing fantastic. Training camp has started for every team. Football is back, quote unquote. Next thing you know, we're going to have the Hall of Fame game. And then before you know it, the regular season will be here. And the beauty of this show, though, is that we talk about Dynasty all year long. And so I'm looking forward to doing all the Dynasty content going forward with you and everybody else here. So I'm doing great. We're doing great as a brand, and couldn't be happier.
Yes, absolutely. And we are also joined by a couple of our fellow fantasy framers. Bill Mustafa staying up late for us over from the UK. Bill, how you doing?
Yeah, tired, but nothing a double espresso hasn't fixed. Looking forward to talking football with the season coming up.
Absolutely. I'm pumped to have you on. And another fantasy and framer, Charlie Cangelosi. Charlie, how's it going, man? Glad to have you back for a second week in a row.
Glad to be back. As Jorge said before, I'm excited. Football is, officially back. The offseason's over. Last night, I actually just did my draft order for my league with my friends. So it's like we're really getting to the swing of things. So fantasy football is back. Happy to start up the season.
Nice. What spot are you picking from?
I got the 8th pick, 8 out of 10. So, yeah.
Okay.
Like Najee or Devontae Adams maybe for the first pick. I don't know. I got to figure that out. We'll do some mock drafts.
Yes, absolutely. So we are here today because there's only one thing better in Dynasty Fantasy Football than looking forward to the season. It is looking very forward to next season. So we'd like to kind of set the stage for 2022 by showing you some of the guys that could be on the move in 2023, whether it's by free agency or cut candidates or trade candidates. But yeah, we're going to cover a few of those guys. We're really going to dig into some of them. We'll list them off too, just so you know who these free agents are. First, obviously, we are getting into training camp. All NFL teams have started their training camps officially. All veterans have reported, so that is very exciting news. Headline mainly, obviously, which everyone has heard, Kyler Murray has been extended. I got the bag. So I guess he got a lot of money, but does it change your outlook on him in fantasy football and dynasty fantasy football, Bill?
Yeah, it does a little bit. As soon as I saw the news that he'd been paid, I felt a little bit more comfortable with my Kyler Murray shares. You know he's the guy there. You know he's going to be there for an extended period of time. He stays with Cliff Kingsbury, the guy that wanted him, the guy that took him 101. The last thing I wanted was him moving and maybe ended up in Miami next year and maybe that not working out, or him becoming, the Kirk Cousins where it's like, oh, we'll tag him. And then he goes elsewhere. It's a lot of money, but realistically, what else were the Cardinals going to do? If they don't pay him and they don't keep him, they've gone from, 2 quarterbacks they're taken inside the top 10 or top 15, whatever. I can't remember where Rosen was taken.
9.
9. So, yeah, 2 quarterbacks in the top 10 in the last 5 years, and they're still looking for a quarterback. realistically, they didn't really have much choice. I'm just impressed that they didn't have to match that Deshaun Watson contract. I thought that might have set a precedent in the NFL, and I'm happy that it didn't. I'm sure NFL owners are ecstatic that it didn't.
Yes, I agree with that. I'm sure I didn't think it was going to set a precedent, right off the bat, because Deshaun had a unprecedented amount of leverage. It was absolutely insane.
Did you see some of the terms of or one of the terms of the Kyler Murray contract is he has to commit himself to like 4 hours of independent film study outside of the training facility. They basically like work to his contract. Hey, you got to do homework for 4 hours every day when you're not in the training facility. I'm not joking. It is something as similar as
$1 million on the line if he doesn't hit that like 4 hours.
Yeah,
Who's monitoring that?
Right, exactly.
Cliff, I don't know, maybe.
I still don't know what Kyler has done to get that type of deal. He's taken a very, very bad roster with a middling to bad GM and a completely unproven and I'm not sure a very good coach. And he went to the playoffs in the best division in the NFL. So I think he has absolutely earned that contract. He is the Cardinals. They would not be where they are without him, but has he shown a lot of improvement? No, not necessarily. All right.
Well, the question is, sorry to keep hammering home this Kyler Murray thing is, they sign him to this big deal, but one of the big issues has always been protecting Kyler Murray. Yeah, he's small and he can run around and he can evade pressure, but eventually you look at the past few seasons he's been in the NFL, he always ends each season banged up, and so now you're handcuffing all this money into him. Well, how are you helping the team around him? Because nobody can take this punishment for too much longer. So I don't know. It's kind of an interesting contract.
Does improving the line even really help him though? Because all he's going to do is run around.
You know what? Tell that to like the Aaron Donalds of the world who can like evade pressure and who can beat their blocks to get around and get these guys. So, I guess those are few and far between, but they're still out there and
in his division, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, right.
All right, so let's keep moving on some of this news. A couple quick hitters. It was announced that rookie John Mechie out of Alabama is going to miss the entire season because he was diagnosed with leukemia. I'm not great with hallmark words, but that just sucks. So I hope he gets better. Chris Carson is retiring. Thank goodness. I think everyone in the NFL community and the fantasy football community did not want to see him on the field again after they were talking about his neck. So good for him. I hope he can stay healthy. DK Metcalf and Debo are sitting out. They are at training camp, so they don't get fined. And they will likely get a new contract. Do any of you guys think that either of them are going to be traded?
There was all this talk that Debo wanted out of San Francisco for the longest time, but I don't see that happening. I see them still bringing him back. If anybody was going to get traded, I think it'd be DK. I don't know why he would want to sign a multi-million-dollar extension with Seattle. They have no vision for the future. They're clearly in rebuild mode. What is the upside of staying in Seattle? I don't know currently. So, yeah, I would think DK would be the one out of the two who'd be on his way out.
And I'm pretty sure the Niners have been having pretty good talks with Debo for the past couple of days. Like those have been reports that I've seen. So I think he's going to get a pretty big deal, especially with Trey area starting over there. So
there we go. So we'll jump to that next. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch basically confirmed that Jimmy's out, Trey is in. It is Trey Lance time. So for all the people who have been acquiring Trey Lance shares through the offseason and have been secretly sweating, they get up from the chair and there's a big pool of sweat and they sit and swamp ass. But good for them. Good for them. They got a little something in Trey there. And last and probably least, Kevin Stefanski confirmed that Jacoby Brissett is the backup on the Browns and will be the QB1 once the suspension comes down. So, with that, we are going to move on to our players that could be in different spots next year, whether it's by free agency, cut, or trade. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of just rattle off these guys that are impending free agents, and we are going to jump in on a couple of them. Then we'll throw out some cut candidates. If you've listened to the podcast before, I am a salary cap nerd, so I dive deep into these contracts, and I can see when they are going to be available to be cut. Anyone can see that, but you just have to be able to look and know where to look. So, impending free agents. Jimmy G, he should be cut, so that's not really a concern. Tom Brady should retire. I don't know who thinks he's going to come back next season. I don't think Tom even thinks it. I don't think his wife thinks it. Baker Mayfield, he will be a free agent after this year in Carolina. Daniel Jones will be a free agent out of the New York Giants. Lamar is set to be a free agent, but he is about to get a bigger bag than Kyler, so that's not really a concern. Jacoby Brissett will be a free agent. He can go be a backup somewhere. Teddy Bridgewater can go be a backup somewhere. Sam Darnold can go be a backup somewhere. Drew Lock can go be a bag boy at a grocery store. And
Tell us how you really feel, Tyler.
Wait, what did I just say? I blacked out. And then Tyler Huntley, which is a little interesting, will be a free agent. I'm not 100% sure. So this will be his third year in the league. He was a restricted free agent last year because he was an undrafted free agent. So the Ravens retained rights to him. They offered him a second-round tender, I believe, or maybe an original round tender. I think he will be an unrestricted free agent after his third year in the league. I think it's that 3-year number that hits where your team no longer has the rights to your contract. So let's go over a couple of these. I know, Charlie, you wanted to talk a little bit about Tyler Huntley. Let's go there.
Yeah, he's one of the more interesting guys on that list. I mean, a lot of these other guys are kind of, as you said, backups or bag boys, or, Lamar who's going to get a massive bag. I think Tyler Huntley's kind of in the middle there, where he hasn't really shown a ton of crazy talent, but in week 15 last year, when Lamar sat with injury, he had 35 fantasy points. He went 28 for 40, 215 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. And then on the rushing side, 13 attempts for 73 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So he had a really solid game against Green Bay, which is one of the better defenses in the NFL. And I could see if he doesn't stay with the Ravens as a backup, he could probably be a starter on either Seattle, or if Baker and Sam don't pan out, Carolina, he could be a pretty solid starting quarterback somewhere else.
Man, I cannot wait for the Panthers not to fire Matt Rule and then to give Tyler Huntley $15 million next year to not be very good. That's really exciting.
If you're the Ravens, after signing Lamar, do you quickly make a deal with Tyler Huntley just to have that insurance policy, just in case? Like, is that going to be like a radar deal that nobody really pays attention to because everybody's focused on the massive lucrative contract that Lamar Jackson's going to sign? I would, if that was that situation.
I mean, that's smart managing, in my opinion. I think, sign him, maybe not 15 mil, maybe like a solid 10 mil or something like that. Just have a solid backup quarterback. If Lamar goes down with injury, that's a pretty good, smart decision.
Yeah. Like, if you're going to fully commit to the offense that you need to run with Lamar Jackson as quarterback, it makes sense to make sure that your backup's Lamar light.
Yeah.
Yes. And Bill, you had something to say about Sam Darnold, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to him being Josh Allen's backup, having him in Buffalo next year. There was all talks that they were best mates, and I remember seeing when they were drafted some Jets fans be like, "Oh, we're looking forward to having Josh as our backup in a few years." And I think I jokingly threw out a tweet, or it might have been a Facebook comment, saying it's going to be the other way around. Darnold's going to be in Buffalo backing up 17, and I'm feeling good about that happening next year. Case Keenum's on a 1-year deal. He'll bounce around and back someone else up next year, and Sam, I think, is going to end up in Buffalo, passing pigskin to his pal.
Nice. Well, I look forward to Bill's Mafia properly welcoming Sam Darnold to the U.S. Midwest and showing him what it's all about. There's no better place than Buffalo for that. So a couple guys that we wanted to cover just before we moved on to running backs are cut candidates. I listed 4 of them. One is Mitchell Trubisky. That's not too much of a concern. If Pickett has a good year, they might cut him. They might keep him around. He's under contract for like $11 million next year. We'll see what happens. The Steelers are out from under Ben Roethlisberger's contract, so they might be able to afford to keep him. Carson Wentz. Obviously, you got to mention him here because he's on his 3rd team in 2 years. Is that right? I hope he can have a good year. I sent something to Jorge earlier that Scott Turner really loves to air it out. I think they're going to pass the hell out of the ball with Carson Wentz. But looking at his contract, it's 0 dead cap after this year, and he's a $26 million cap hit next year. If he does not have a good year, that's if it's really bad, that might be an easy cut. We'll see.
What would constitute having a good year to be worthy of a $26 million cap hit? Like, would he have to take them deep into the playoffs for that to be something, or is a one and done in the playoffs enough, or what?
My opinion, I think 9-8 is enough.
That's 9 and 8.
Come on, man.
Hey, the Commanders whatever they were at the time. The Washington football team made the playoffs, almost beat the Bucks. They weren't even over 500. Just get over 500. That's all I'm asking.
There's no way they're giving him 26 million.
Hey, and honestly, 9-8 might be enough to get into the playoffs in the NFC. There's like 4 teams and then just a big old trash can. None of these teams are even trying. Next is Jared Goff. That'll be an interesting one. He's a $30 million cap hit next year. Still a big contract. He's only a $10 million dead cap hit. So obviously the Lions haven't really put anything in place to succeed him. So he might still be there to try to mentor a young quarterback. That's probably what their plan is. The big one for me is Ryan Tannehill. The Titans did a bit of we'll call it a soft reset this offseason. They got rid of A.J. Brown, which, I won't discuss that. But Tannehill's almost a $37 million dead cap hit next year. He'd be an $18.8 million dead cap hit. So still a decent hit. They would save $18 million if they cut him. It depends what they see from Malik Willis. If Malik Willis is good, that could work out. They could designate Tannehill a post 6-1 trade or a post 6-1 cut and split that dead cap hit between 2023 and 2024. The big thing I've said, I've texted with my buddy who's a Jets fan, and I said, hey, look at it this way. After your team sucks this year, the Jets can trade for Ryan Tannehill because Zach Wilson isn't going to be worth it. So you never know. Tannehill and the Jets could be interesting.
Nah, man, Zach Wilson's a dog, dude. Come on.
Did you see CJ Uzama yesterday walk into training camp with the
yes.
Yeah, exactly. The T-shirt, Zach Wilson.
I love it. Just the time
management.
person of the year or something.
Yeah.
And he had the hat on that said "For the Boys." So big fan of CJ Uzama now too.
I never thought I'd be rooting for a Jets quarterback, but yeah, Zach Wilson's the man that's done it.
A $10 million cap hit is nothing in the NFL. The salary cap's going to be $220 million next year, and some of these teams are going to roll over like $20 million in cap. That's 5%. It's chump change at this point. All right, we're going to move on to running backs. Impending free agents for running backs. This is a juicy one. I think some of these guys might not hit the market, but I think a lot of them will, the way the NFL has been valuing running backs. So let's start off at the top. Saquon Barkley, Kareem Hunt, Rashad Penny, Josh Jacobs, Melvin Gordon, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, Damian Harris, Tony Pollard, James Robinson. That is a lot of talent that is about to hit the running back free agent pool. And we're going to find out what the NFL thinks about running back value. So one of the first ones I want to cover that I'm very interested in is David Montgomery. Jorge, what do you got to say about Montgomery?
I did an article a few months ago about Khalil Herbert and how he was basically the 1B to Montgomery's 1A in terms of performance last year. Obviously, Herbert came on when Montgomery was injured. That being the case, I still think Montgomery is a very good running back. If it wasn't his last year and the contract situation was going to be up in the air next year, I would be completely happy, holding on to David Montgomery in Dynasty and just like riding the waiver as long as it is. That's not the case. He's going to be a free agent this year. The Bears have somebody really talented, Khalil Herbert. They could easily let Montgomery walk. If I was trying to offload David Montgomery, I would do it during the season after he blows up for 160 yards and the 2-3 touchdown game, and get as much as you can for him, because if he doesn't do that again, that value is going to go right down to the floor, and that's going to suck for the David Montgomery manager.
Yes, and we'll see what the Bears do. The Bears have a obscene amount of cap space next year, $88 million. Oh, wow. So they focused on their defense last. I guess they just focused on getting rid of all the trash that was on the roster, but they're going to have a lot of money to spend. So why not give David Montgomery $12 million to keep him with a healthy backfield, a really good backfield between him and Herbert for Justin Fields. So show literally any kind of commitment to Justin Fields. I'm hoping for that. So a couple of the cut candidates that we want to cover for running backs. The primary two are Aaron Jones and Zeke Elliott. I want to hit Aaron Jones first. Bill, where are you at with Aaron Jones?
I mean, I really like Aaron Jones this year in fantasy. I was on a podcast the other day, and it was albeit a hot takes podcast. I had Aaron Jones I think he's going to be a top 3 PPR running back this year. So for fantasy football, fantastic. Are the Green Bay Packers gonna keep this guy that has, I think it's a massive cap hit.
Yeah, it's almost 21 million.
It's just not happening. It's just not happening. The man would have to single-handedly be the MVP for them to consider it. Like, it's just so much money. And if he has a season that I think he's going to have, and he's going to be a top 3, top 5 PPR running back, someone is going to pay him.
Yes.
But what that does to his fantasy value just depends on where he lands.
I mean, I'm no capologist here, but something tells me maybe they could front load some of this money into guaranteed money and kind of like lower the annual costs per year. It's not like that hasn't been done before to manipulate the salary cap. If Aaron Jones shows that he's worthy of that money, I feel like Green Bay will find a way. As long as Aaron Jones is there, I don't think they get rid of Aaron Jones.
With AJ Dillon behind him.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, if Aaron Jones is gone, Dillon becomes a top 5 running back, I think, in the league, and I just feel that strongly about AJ Dillon. But I think Aaron Jones' time in Green Bay is tied to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Rodgers has fought for this guy, during the Mike McCarthy days to get him on the field to be the guy. And then finally McCarthy, too late with his tenure in Green Bay, finally listened. But LaFleur, he listens to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers wants Jones on the field. I feel like there's some creative accounting that could be done to keep Aaron Jones next year. And if that's the case, and that going into this season, what is his dynasty value really? Is it going to be something that is going to be, is it going to rise because you think they can keep him, or is it going to fall because you think they can keep him? I don't know. It depends on your perspective of things.
I think if you say, right, he's attached to Aaron Rodgers. So if you think Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones are going to be in Green Bay for the next, let's say, 3 seasons, I think he becomes a massive buy. Especially if you're a contender, Devontae Adams is out the door. We know that Aaron Rodgers likes Aaron Jones, as you've said. I think if you put them two together and you think that as long as Rodgers is in Green Bay, Jones is in Green Bay, I think he's an automatic buy. Bring him in. Go and make the offer.
Absolutely. So yes, there is some creative accounting that can be done There's an $8.1 million base salary for Aaron Jones next year. He already has 2 void years built into his contract. They can bring that base salary down to $1 million, spread that $7.1 million over the next 4 years, including the void years. Boom, his cap hits $14 million. So it is that easy. I don't know if anyone caught that, but I would be happy to explain it because I am way too into that for my own good.
Our own resident typologist here, Tyler Heil. There you go.
All right. So the next cut candidate, Ezekiel Elliott. Charlie, where are you at with Zeke?
Zeke's an interesting player to talk about because every year I see on Twitter, he just gets disrespected after disrespect, but he's one of those guys. He can put up 1,000 yards in his sleep, but he is getting up there in age. He's 27 years old. That's kind of the RB cliff area that people like to talk about. And the Cowboys, they love Tony Pollard. I've done some research. I wrote an article, Dynasty Targets, go read it, on Tony Pollard. He outranked Zeke last year in almost every rushing and receiving statistic that I could find. And so, the Cowboys would save about $5 million if they cut Zeke. But, there's a chance they probably keep him for a year. And we see Pollard kind of overtake Zeke in touches, in my opinion. And then next year, maybe they cut him. But I see a pretty big change in that backfield over the next year.
Yeah, they'll have to re-sign Tony Pollard to let him overtake Zeke next year.
I think they do. I think Pollard's got what? He's 25 years old compared to Zeke. He's 27. Pollard's still got, I would say, a couple of years left in him. I think they would re-sign him.
Yeah, they are pretty loyal to their own players in Dallas, so we shall see. All right, let's hit one more running back. You know what? I'm just going to be a homer. Kareem Hunt. Jorge, where are you at on Kareem Hunt?
This is a very, very big year for Kareem Hunt. I feel like coming back from injury this year, that the situation with the Browns at the quarterback position is going to get all sorts of dicey. We don't know how many games Deshaun Watson's going to miss, and then, of course, what is Stefanski going to rely on? Jacoby Brissett? No, he's going to rely on the two-headed monster and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And if Kareem Hunt can have a year like he had a couple of seasons ago, I mean, he could find himself into a very big situation with any running back needy team in the NFL. His dynasty value would go through the roof, obviously, if he had a big season, regardless of where he ended up, because I think he's just that talented of a player that he can overcome any deficiencies on any offense.
So I guess this brings a question to mind for dynasty running back value. Are running backs just dead at like 25 or 26? Or, I feel like they could retain some value after that.
Depends if you're a contender, right? Like if you're on the edge of getting to a title or getting a championship, and the guy still has some tread and has been performing well, like you kind of have to, at that point, ride with it. But if you're somebody who, is clearly out of it for the next couple of years and trying to maximize your advantage in terms of what you're getting in return for a trade, has to be focused on.
Yeah, I always think they're the last piece of the puzzle for a dynasty team. If you're a contender, that's the time when you go and a guy like James Conner, a Kareem Hunt, a guy like that, you go, well, I paid a little bit extra that's going to convince the current guy that's rostering them to let them go, and hopefully it puts me over the edge, because the most important thing is winning that championship at the end of the day. So you have to give a little bit of value for an aging running back that's going to push you over the edge. You do it, but there's only a select number of teams in a league every season that are at that stage and can do that, or should do that.
All right, sorry guys, I got a special guest here. He wants to talk about some wide receiver impending free agents. So our impending free agents for wide receiver, we're going to hit our DJ Chark, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jarvis Landry, Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson. Obviously off the top, Deebo, DK, they're holding out right now. They will likely get a deal and not be free agents. Cut trade candidates. So, well, actually, let's hit Deontay first, because he is going to be a free agent, and the Steelers have basically said they're not re-signing him. Jorge, what do you think about Deontay's value and possible landing spot?
Dude's a monster. He's a reception monster. I mean, it's one of those players who I feel like wherever he ends up, whether it's a bad team, they're going to funnel him the ball. Whether it's a good team, they're going to see what they did in Pittsburgh and they're going to funnel him the ball. Wherever he goes, people are going to want to get him the ball, regardless. So I don't see his value in Dynasty really dropping too far down. I guess my only concern would be if he were to go to on a cheap deal, which I don't think is possible, but like to a Philadelphia or to like a Tennessee where it's a run oriented offense, like, you already have AJ Brown in Philadelphia. I wouldn't want this dream team up of Deontay Johnson and AJ Brown because there's only so many passes to go around in that offense. Similarly to a place like Tennessee, run a heavy offense with Henry. They have Robert Woods still there, but I don't know. I don't see too many places where he would land next year that would completely tank or ruin his dynasty value. He's just that good of a player.
Yes, he's great. I hope he becomes more appreciated this year. So I think he's had the stigma of, oh, well, Big Ben just is dumping him the ball short, and that's why he's having 1 million receptions every year. Whereas he's one of the best separators in man coverage in the NFL, the wide receiver position. So a couple other cut/trade candidates. Tyler Boyd, Keenan Allen, and Kenny Galladay. So I know Tyler Boyd, Keenan Allen, people might not be too into it, but let me make the case for Tyler Boyd. He is very clearly the wide receiver 3 on that offense. He's a very good wide receiver 3. He's a productive wide receiver 3. Can the Bengals afford to keep him? They still have the gift of Joe Burrow on a rookie deal, so it's possible. But can you justify spending $22 million on a running back and a third wide receiver in 1 year? Boyd will be going into his age 29 season next year. The Bengals really need to re-sign Jesse Bates. They should re-sign Von Bell. They might be able to get by without him. And they're probably going to be a prime candidate for one of the top of the market cornerbacks, right, Jorge?
When you said that they have to resign Jesse Bates, the IDP writer / analyst to me, it was like, I don't know. They drafted a guy in Daxton Hill this past April who is basically Jesse Bates light, who can do it all over the field, who could easily step into that free safety role. So I don't know whether or not they need to get Jesse Bates. I think they want to, but I think Jesse Bates is going to want to command a little bit more money than maybe the Bengals want to commit to him.
Maybe. The Bengals have spent quite a lot of money in free agency the past several years. I think it would be good for them to keep one of their own. Anyway.
Yeah. If I had to choose between Boyd or Bates, I'd rather have Bates just because you already have the wide receiver options on offense. You don't need to go into Hawk over your third wide receiver. That makes sense.
Yes. So, can they afford him? Probably. Are they going to want to? I don't know. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, you've got some really good pass catchers there. But Tyler Boyd would, if he were to be cut, if he were to be traded, he would probably go to a team and be a wide receiver 2 for them. He's not going to go be a fantasy superstar. But Boyd's likely going to retain a high-end wide receiver 3 value for the next couple of years. Next is Keenan Allen. A lot's going to hinge on his performance this year. He's really getting up. He's getting up there for a NFL wide receiver in age. He is 32, I believe, or he is going to turn 32. Next year is a $21.7 million cap hit with $6.9 million dead cap. So they would be saving over $15 million if they were to cut and or trade him. They just paid Mike Williams a lot of money, but I would imagine you want to keep that young quarterback surrounded with as many weapons as possible. But if he does not have a great year, he could be cut. We shall see. Last one, Kenny Galladay. Bill, what do you think about Kenny Galladay?
I think Kenny Galladay is going to have a little bit more of a fantasy football say than he did last year, and more of a say than people are expecting him to have this year. You look at that Giants team, who's catching passes? Evan Ingram's gone. Okay, so there's Kenny Golladay. There's Sterling Shepard, who can never stay healthy. There's Wan'Dale Robinson. We don't know what he is going to be at the next level. I like him as a jitterbug type of receiver. I don't think he's going to come out of the gates as a rookie and work as a number 2 outside receiver. And you've got obviously Kadarius Toney, but I think he played in 10 games last season. There seems to be some issues there. I don't want to ruin the guy's character when I don't know, but there seems to be some issues there. Kenny Golladay, we know he's a talented receiver. We've seen it in Detroit. There's a reason that the Giants gave him so much money. The Giants have got new coaching staff, so it's almost like a clean slate. They've got Brian Daboll there. That man knows how to dial up an effective offense. And he's, currently sleeper ADPs, wide receiver 57. How many wide receiver ones can you pick up as the wide receiver 57 or that range?
I don't think any.
I'm not a huge Golladay fan. I'm not telling you he's going to be, a wide receiver 1 or even a wide receiver 2. But if he's a high-end wide receiver 3 and you can pick him up at wide receiver 57 or around there, the upside of him being a wide receiver 1 on his own team, it's not like they're a super run-first team. Saquon Barkley can't stay healthy either. It's almost like, well, if Barkley can't stay healthy and Sterling Shepard can't stay healthy and you've got a rookie and you've got a second-year player that doesn't seem to get on with anyone, who else are they going to throw the ball to? The tight end's gone. Just by eliminating the other pass catchers, he almost makes himself better than the wide receiver 57 value.
Yes. I right there with you. Go ahead, Jorge.
I am shocked at the disrespect towards Ricky Seals-Jones for the Giants. That is harsh, man. And you may not want to say bad things about Kenny Golladay. Let me say this: Kenny Golladay is to the New York Giants what Kelvin Benjamin was to the Buffalo Bills.
Oh no!
Come on. Prove me wrong.
Don't talk about our former offensive lineman like that. So disrespectful.
Wow, I didn't know you had that in you, Jorge. I didn't know you had in you. That was harsh.
Kelvin Benjamin had already gone through like 5 teams and transitioned to tight end by the time he was Kenny Galladay's age.
I didn't expect Kelvin Benjamin's name to be brought up today.
Me neither.
Who had that on the bingo card?
I know. I need to put a scoreboard back here for Kelvin Benjamin mentions.
For you, Bill. For you.
I want to forget it. I want to forget that whole situation.
All right, so let's round out some of these free agent / cut candidates with tight end. Not the most exciting position, but we do have 2 guys playing on franchise tags this year, so could be difference makers in the free agent market next year. So impending free agents: Dalton Schultz, Mike Gesicki, Evan Ingram, Austin Hooper, Robert Tonyan, Hayden Hurst, OJ Howard, Irv Smith, and Dawson Knox. Charlie, what do you got to say about Dalton Schultz?
I mean, if there's any one of those guys on that list that deserves to get a deal, I think it's Dalton Schultz. He finished last year in both standard and PPR formats as the tight end 3. I did a lot of research on this guy. He ranks in top 10 among like tight ends who get 75% of targets. Top 10 in like almost every statistic. His PFF grades also rank top 10, and especially in the red zone, he's a top 5 target for tight ends. And now with Amari Cooper, Cedric Wilson, and Blake Jarwin all moving on, that frees up over 180 targets. So I said before, a lot of those are going to go to CeeDee Lamb, but also a lot of those are going to go to Dalton Schultz once they get into that 10 5-yard radius, that area. And I think he has a monster season this year, and I think he gets paid.
Are you forgetting that Jalen Tolbert out of the University of South Alabama is going to be the wide receiver 1 this year?
I mean,
no. Michael Dallas, their true hero of the Dallas Cowboys, is coming back.
It's a bit of wishful thinking. I don't know. CD's that guy. He's got the number 88. I mean, he has to live up to it. If not, he's going to be grocery bagging next year. He can't suck with number 88 on his back. I'm sorry. He just can't. He can't.
He can't, and he won't. CD is going to be awesome this year.
Yeah.
All right, so next guy playing on a franchise tag, Mike Gesicki. Where do you think he's going to end up, Jorge?
Hopefully not on a lot of my dynasty rosters, just because, you look at the commitment that they made towards getting Tyreek Hill this offseason. They have Jalen Waddle. Is the target volume going to be there for Gesicki this year? I don't think it's going to be like it was last year. That's for darn sure. But there's a player that I want to bring to everybody's attention. His name is Hunter Long, and he was a rookie last year out of Boston College. All the player comps that they had coming into the NFL was that he's basically Mike Gesicki Jr. or the next iteration of Mike Gesicki. So they don't need to pay Mike Gesicki all this money. They can literally just insert Hunter Long into this lineup, and I think you get the same type of reduction that you would from a Mike Gesicki. So if anything, I'm trying to offload Gesicki for what I can, just because the tight end market is so thin and frail, and I'm doing everything I can to acquire Hunter Long on the cheap.
I like it. Oh, CD is not the guy we all thought he was going to be from Gator J.
Oh, come
Gator
on.
J's bringing some violence tonight. I gotta be honest with you.
He is. Did he not sleep well last night? Like, what happened?
I'm a Giants fan. I disagree. Come on. That's
How did CD hurt that man?
Exactly. How did CD hurt you? Did he toss to a needle? Is that what happened? Come on.
I mean, he went to Oklahoma, so he didn't offend the University of Florida too badly. I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, so next guy on our list that I'm very excited about personally is Dawson Knox. So we're going to go to our resident Bills fan, Bill.
I love
Very
Dawson Knox. I love Dawson Knox. I see a lot of people talking about how he's touchdown dependent, and that's where his fantasy points come from, which, okay, fair enough. But he also happens to play on the Buffalo Bills offense, which is one of the best in the NFL. We score a lot of touchdowns, score a lot of points. Josh Allen throws a lot of touchdowns. And if he's not running the ball into the end zone himself, when he's in the red zone, he tends to look for his big body tight end. Now, okay, he might not have the success that he did last year hauling in touchdowns, but where's the competition really? Gabe Davis is just taking Emmanuel Sanders' job. Jamison Crowder is just taking Cole Beasley's job. I don't see anyone that's coming in and is going to demand, no, not OJ Howard.
What? Okay, come on. And now the shit tools, OJ Howard. Come on.
I leant forward thinking there was going to be something I've missed on there when you wrote, and I saw that pad come up, and not OJ Howard, who has apparently looked super unathletic at OTAs, which surprises me. But look, Dawson Knox is super talented. He's super athletic. He was at Ole Miss. The Bills took him knowing that it was a project. They knew that he wasn't going to be, a first-year stud at the position. He still had to learn how to become a tight end, and he's done so fantastically. I think he's one of the best tight ends in the league, and I don't see any reason to fade him. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about is we've still got to pay Ed Oliver. We've still got to pay Tremaine Edmonds. Jordan Poyer is starting to kick up a fuss, and if Jordan Poyer gets paid, Micah Hyde has to get paid. The issue is that I'm pretty sure there's a guy in New York, or New Jersey, Brian Daboll, a man that knows how to use Dawson Knox without a tight end, because no matter what Jorge says, they do lack a tight end. Dawson Knox is a guy you could be looking at to go, I've got a new quarterback because Daniel Jones sucks. So we've got a new quarterback in the draft, or we've gone and got Mitch Trubisky, who's just been released from the Steelers. And I want to go and get him a tight end. I want to go and get him a safety blanket. And the Bills can't afford to pay him, and we can. That's my only concern. But as long as he's in a Bills uni, a Bills jersey, no concern. Top 5 tight end in fantasy football.
So you think he's more of a product of the system than he is actually an elite caliber tight end that can go anywhere?
I don't think he could go anywhere. But then I don't think anyone outside of George Kittle and Travis Kelce could go anywhere. Even Mark Andrews, if you put him in my opinion, in that Giants offense, he wouldn't be the Mark Andrews that we see in Baltimore. For me, I just think that Dawson Knox, if you put him in the Niners offense, there wouldn't be too much of a drop-off. If you put him in the Ravens offense, there wouldn't be too much of a drop-off. in my opinion. But there's just certain offenses, it doesn't matter how good a tight end you are, unless you are like a future Hall of Fame freak, like a Travis Kelce, where you're just not going to see the targets and you're just not going to, the man's got Josh Allen as his quarterback. I could probably play tight end and catch one touchdown.
Let's start a petition.
5 for 8.
I will fly you over from the UK and we'll go up to Bill's minicamp and I'll file a petition to get you to at least play one play with Josh Allen next year.
That would, I could die a happy man.
Hey, NFL Europe.
I probably would, but
NFL Europe's coming back. We got to get you a tryout.
I'm up for this petition. Oh, Daniel Bellinger's not going to do anything. Come on. I'll give it up.
That is the definition of reaching for literally anyone at the position because the roster is so bad. Bellinger will stay on my taxi squads.
Yeah.
All right, so bear with me here. I am going to say a few cut candidates. One is Logan Thomas. He's already on the pup. The guy just can't stay healthy. It really sucks. He was really promising.
He'll be a third-string quarterback somewhere.
Yeah. I hope he can stay healthy because I think he can be a actual contributor in that Washington offense. Tyler Higbee, he could be cut. He was cuttable this year, but we'll see where the Rams cap takes them. They could save quite a bit of money by cutting him. And then I'm going to make the case for this, so don't yell me down yet. Hunter Henry could be cut. The best receiving option on the Patriots. We remember last year that the Patriots immediately gave Jonnu Smith all this money. And then they're like, well, they got their tight end. And then 5 minutes later, they gave Hunter Henry almost the exact same contract. However, it is not the same contract. After this year, Hunter Henry is a $15.5 million cap hit. They could save $10 million by cutting him. Jonnu Smith next year is a $14.75 million cap hit, and they couldn't save more than $1 million by cutting him. So Jonnu Smith is not going anywhere. I think they
messed those contracts up.
Yes, they sure did. So if Bill Belichick is known for anything, it is for getting out a year too early rather than a year too late on a 29-year-old tight end. And we will see where their salary cap space takes them. I think Jonnu Smith could be a bigger part of that offense this year. Hunter Henry was not a very high volume player for them. He caught 50 balls, 600 yards. He was 14th in the NFL in tight end receiving yards. All of his fantasy scoring came in touchdowns last year. That could flip. Touchdowns are not sticky. Those could flip to Jonnu Smith.
He's the other guy that is mentioned with Dawson Knox about it's all touchdowns, and it's going to regress. It's going to regress back to the mean. Yeah, possibly. That contract makes it interesting, doesn't it? If they know that they're stuck with Jonnu Smith and they can get out of Hunter Henry, maybe they do filter some of those touchdowns or tight end targets to Jonnu.
Yeah, and we'll see. I never underestimate Bill Belichick on just surprisingly getting rid of players and flipping his offense on a dime. They're going to run the crap out of the ball this year. So we will see. We'll also find out if Tyquan Thornton is Randy Moss.
Yeah,
right,
they've just drafted prime Randy Moss as well, according to Bill Belichick. not too sure about that, but who am I to question Bill Belichick?
All right, so we are going to land this proverbial plane on that awesome note of Hunter Henry being cut for no reason whatsoever. So we, again, are Dynasty 365. We are the Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast for fantasyandframes.com. I believe we just released something over at fantasyandframes.com. Jorge, what did we release today?
We released our first fantasy football preview of the AFC East. Well, I should say it's our first fantasy football preview of the season. We basically covered every single position that's fantasy football worthy, talking about summaries at each position, talking about which players are the values to go after in your fantasy drafts, all the way from offense through to IDP. Lots of information, and we will be breaking that down into smaller chunks for you over the next few days, whether you're on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, you name it. We're going to have all this stuff split up everywhere you want to look for fantasy football content. So head over to fantasyandframes.com and check out our fantasy football preview of the AFC East today.
All right. And Charlie, where can they find you at on Twitter?
They can find me right here at this handle, at Charlie the Third. Also through my bio, you can find my Dynasty team at Shane Regime DF. So follow that. Follow me to look at some more Fantasy and Frames content.
There you go. And Bill, where can they find you on Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter at Dynasty Bill FF. And the vast majority of my work is on Fantasy and Frames website. So head over there, look at the awesome articles that the team put out there.
All right, and be sure to follow Fantasy and Frames on Twitter, the actual brand. We are tweeting out all of our articles and everything that we are putting out over the next month, getting ready for the season. Check out our website, fantasyandframes.com, for all of our Dynasty Target articles, as well as that AFC East preview article that Jorge just mentioned. So I believe that is it. Thank you, everyone, for joining. That was a lot of fun. Hope you have a good night.